Welcome back to After Hours. We were just discussing about the pairs of glasses that Stephen owns.
Yeah.
Go on, take it away.
So I think I've mentioned a few times Dresden eyewear, which I'm a massive fan of. And this isn't an ad, but
This
just
is the first time that I'm hearing it, but again, with the same principle with McDonald's, if you are listening to this, please DM us.
absolutely. So I wear Dresden glasses, and these are actually quite conservative. This pair that I have. Although for those of you who are watching carefully, and I'll just up to the image. So every single part of the glasses is replaceable, which is the thing that I love.
Okay,
And so they're prescription lenses, but the frame, the arms, and even the pins, which I was just showing everyone who watches us from a Thursday, where you can see both Dr. Vincent and me, Stephen.
for now you only have me. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love the flexibility. And because they're very well priced, I have multiple pairs of glasses.
And I guess having the ability to replace and or update just different parts of the glasses make it timeless essentially because you only need to replace what you need to replace.
Exactly. Now, the way that Dresden uh, go to market, originally they just did this one frame type as well. So
Okay.
just this one fairly generic, kind of suits most people, squared off sort of frame. But they've added some other frames.
Well, today we're going to talk about the health halo effect. However, you just reminded me of something that is actually very close to my heart, Stephen, because long, long time ago, before the Apple iPhone as well as the Android phone, smartphone became two household names and really transform how we have technology just on our hands, in terms of emailing, doing every type of works that you want to do, multimedia, as well as connecting with people. Have you ever heard that there was a technology or a model of phone where it's a little bit like Legos, where you can replace just, say, for example, the camera, the keyboard, the screen, and it can all be done at home, at the comfort of your own home. You can do it yourself. It's basically a DIY phone. However, it was bought out by a leading technology company and it was killed because, or shelved because obviously that is not the smartest money making model in terms of not having you updating your phone every
Mhm.
single year, which seems now to be the business model of both Android as well as Apple.
As well as Apple, yeah. And you are dating yourself. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are thinking,
I'm on
uh,
Wikipedia, so
uh,
can people can find out how
that's your
old I am.
excuse. Nice.
Yeah, at any time.
A keyboard with a phone? That's crazy.
Yeah, I know, right? Uh, well, there's another story because BlackBerry wrote themselves off from the playing field because they refuse to accept that people are moving from analog into the touchscreen game.
Yeah. Well, and also for anyone who's seen the movie, which is actually it's a great movie.
Yes,
When they did make the move to touchscreen,
it's
uh,
a little too late.
they didn't quite understand why people used a BlackBerry.
Yes,
And there was a lot of focus on the user experience, which I think is very, very important. Uh, but you need to talk to your users to understand what part of the user experience makes the most difference.
yes. And not to tie it back to my company, Renovator Bioscience, but knowing that piece of information or fun fact, whatever that you call it, about that modular phone where you can change different parts, and it was eventually the technology was shelved because it was not the best money making scheme or strategy for the big companies. It actually put almost like the fear of God in me when I finished my PhD because before Renovatio was Renovatio, I was actually offered uh, at that time and even now a good sum of money for me to sell the technology to quite a leading brand
Mm,
of life sciences company.
Yep.
And at the time, the advice that I was given by essentially 99% of people whom I asked for advice for was to sell.
Yep.
But there was a benefit of being 24 years old, turning 25, naive, and feeling that I can do anything. The thought of failure was not even in my horizon of mindset. So I guess uh, being naive and probably a little bit dumb at that time uh, propelled me into a place where I am now. And I'm not saying that we're like the biggest supplement and skincare company. No, we hopefully are on our way to that. But what I want to say is sometimes not all money is good money. Sometimes I feel that
Mm.
you need to add value to your dream in the form of integrity. And I
Yeah.
do believe that it should be the foundation of a lot of things, including the thing that we want to talk about today, which is the health halo effect. I Let me take you behind the scene of our
Yeah.
discussion.
What is the halo effect? Let's start there.
That's basically the question that Steven asked me when I was WhatsApping him, and he said that, okay, great topic. Let me Google that. So, halo effect, before it was named health halo, we in the human nutrition society and field already are very aware about this phenomenon. And the first time I was aware about that was actually in my second year at the university when part of the I was part of the research group that sort of kind of wrote a proposal to the government, to Australian government, to introduce the fortification and enrichment of breakfast cereal with folic acid or folate,
Okay. Right.
because we know they, not to be controversial, we do know that they add fluoride to water, or they add iron and certain types of vitamins into staple goods to make sure that people get their recommended daily intake
Yep.
from certain products that we know people are taking every day, like bread, breakfast cereal, juices, vitamin D in milk, for example.
Mm.
But folic acid was not part of that fortification process. And after all of this being done and eventually got approved, suddenly you start seeing breakfast cereal with really heavy sort of kind of highlight on with added folic acid or now included folic acid. And because folic acid and folate, depending on the form that you get it in, it's associated with the reduced risk of birth defects in pregnant women.
Okay.
And society, consumer have this association that if it's good for pregnant women, if it's safe for pregnant women, it must be safe for
It's
everyone.
yeah. It's a high bar
It's a
already.
high bar already, and company quickly realized that by honing in onto these two words, folic acid added or folic acid fortified, suddenly they can see that bump and uplift in their cells.
Wow. So I can get my Honey Crispy treat breakfast cereal that's 80% sugar with folate.
Yes, and that is exactly the reason why it is being called the health halo effect, because uh, people are focusing on the halo and that glow, that really nice soft glow, and they forget to flip the packaging and read that perhaps the sugar content is very high. Perhaps the high fructose corn syrup was it as part of the formulation.
Yeah.
However, uh, instead of instead of consumer sort of kind of realizing and catching up to this marketing strategy, food and beverages companies are actually getting a lot better with it, because as technology evolves, as the demand for healthier food evolves, there are a lot more jargons being coined. Say, for example, plant-based, vegan, high in
Mhm.
iron, or natural, or organically grown,
Yep.
or a sustainably sourced. All of these words, when you ask lay people on the street, 90% of them will associate that with being healthy
Mm.
and therefore are willing to pay more. So there is a betrayal effect here.
Yeah.
There is It's not victimless marketing strategy, because people are trusting this jargon, thinking that it's healthier. They want to be healthier. Obviously,
Mm.
uh, if they can do it without putting a lot more effort, they are willing to pay that 20 cents extra
Yeah.
or, a dollar extra. However, just because it has the name vegan doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually healthier for you.
It's a really interesting point, Dr. Vincent. So, do you think that in general consumers are a little bit better educated, and so the marketing teams are having to try new things to try and make the packaging uh, more bright and bright colors and all of these fancy terms and 98% this and 4% that and all of these words that we associate with something that's good? Is that because consumers are more educated, or is it just the direction that the market's going and the competitive nature?
Not to coincide this with the upcoming sequel of The Devil Wears Prada, but you have you ever watched the movie?
I have. Yeah.
Do you
Great
know
movie.
that really famous scene where Miranda Priestley, which was the editor in chief for the Runway magazine, explained that what consumer buy is actually not based on free will. They think that they have free will in choosing what type of color,
Yeah.
what type of dresses, what type of belt that they are purchasing in the department store. But as a matter of fact, behind the scene, there are people who sort of kind of dictate where the trend goes. I mean,
Mm.
even things like the Pantone color, there is a Pantone color of the year,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that sets the trend instead of reading the trend and then giving consumer what consumer wants. So I really do think that because consumer are wanting to know more, doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that they want more because
Mm.
if they if they want to know more, they will be reading scientific journals.
Yeah.
They want to think that they want to know more, but their source of information is largely marketing disguised as information. So, for example, if they're talking about things like, plant-based uh, diets are better for you and for longevity, and they're associating that with, say, for example, the Mediterranean diet, they are heavily based on plants, for example,
Mm.
and automatically maybe the food manufacturers and brands are not saying that, but they rely on the brain of the customers to make that to bridge that gap, to make that leap of
Yeah. Yeah.
conclude that just because it's plant-based, it suddenly is healthy for you.
Okay. And so, I guess being now aware of what the halo effect is, uh, can you give me any examples? Is there something that comes to mind
Yes.
that?
For example, if you go to the meat alternative section of the supermarket, for
Mm.
example, and then you pick up I don't know, a burger patty that is vegan,
Yep.
it's not necessarily lower in calorie. It is not necessarily lower in saturated fat. As a matter of fact, instead of having just uh, minced or ground beef, spices, and a little bit of starch to bind it together, you will have a full 2 paragraphs of ingredients that
Mm.
some of us can't even pronounce. And all the codes of 503, 532, coloring, thickener, preservative,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
nitrate,
Binders. Yep.
they are not they are not natural for you. They are not readily recognizable by your body. So I get that when people are vegan or vegetarian based on their choice, that I have no
Mm.
issue with.
Mm.
However, when people are making dietary choices based on what they think is healthier for them, sure, if you are replacing bacons with lettuce, it is healthier. But if you're replacing bacon with bacon, which is basically chemically
Yeah.
made fake bacon,
Mm.
that
Even
is
even if it's a pulse or a chickpea or something like that, you're
what
saying it's probably got
it
higher
pulses and
salt or
chickpeas,
something
but
different.
it pulses and chickpeas and legumes. It doesn't have to be shaped and flavored to emulate the bacon.
Yeah.
Again, if you're doing it based on your choices, based on your religious belief, do that. But if you're doing it based on what you think is healthy for your body, you're being lied to. And this is the thing that Sir Paul McCartney, I have no issue with the Beatles. However, Sir Paul McCartney tried to reverse the ban in Europe to call, say, for example, fake sausages or plant-based sausages. They cannot in Europe. They cannot use the meat equivalent term
Ah,
to describe and market uh, uh, plant-based meat or vegetarian meat or fake meat. They have to call it something else, like I don't know,
wow.
texturized vegetable protein, which they refuse to do. Manufacturers are
Well, it
refusing to do
doesn't
because
have
it
that
doesn't
ring.
exactly it doesn't appeal to consumers. But I I am I am a proponent of this bill because if you if you slap the word plant based sausages on the packaging, again, 90% of people that you ask in the supermarket on the street will associate that pack of sausages as a healthier alternative compared to the sausage that you get from the
Mm,
butcher.
yeah. And I guess that applies to many other things that we associate with healthy foods or with healthy snacks as well. I've seen in a little bit of research that I did around the different types of energy drinks
Yes,
that are available. I was shocked at the amount of sugar and salt that's in some of those.
and caffeine. So this is the thing when they sell a caffeinated beverage to you, you'll be like, "Oh, I don't drink coffee because it's high in caffeine." People know that.
Mm.
People already automatically associating high caffeine with palpitation, for example,
Yep.
or it will disrupt your sleep cycle.
And also interferes with some drugs, and
Yes.
there are a whole lot of things that you need to be aware of.
However, if it's being packaged in the form of energy drink,
Mm.
packed with taurine, which is an essential nutrient for your body, or it helps with your memory and cognition, or it keeps you going. People people don't automatically and instinctively connecting the dots. I'm not saying that
Mm.
people are stupid. No, it's because we are busy sometimes, and they know this. They know exactly how to take advantage of how our brain works when we see the advertisement about Red Bull, for example, Red Bull gives you wings. You see all of these people who are so active on an adventure. They seem to be on all the time. They're on
Mm.
1 minute they're at the meeting, the next minute they're actually out hiking.
Yeah.
And if you're at home just trying to fold your laundry after a long day at work, you want to be them. You want
Mm.
to have that kind of life and energy
Yep.
and you associate drinking certain types of energy drink with a better quality of life, with a more active lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's where I have an issue.
Mm. Do you think that the halo effect has a negative impact on children as well? I guess, do we project those wishes for our kids?
Yes, both directly and indirectly, because directly, uh, as a dad who is time poor, even with even with my knowledge and background in nutrition, sometimes I still get duped.
Mm.
But you can only dupe me once though. When you just reach for that pack of, say, for example, extruded snacks or rice cracker, and it says that made from brown rice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter how it's made or from which grain, but when it's being pulverized and it's being processed, highly processed, it will still raise that blood sugar level. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that it doesn't have white rice comes from brown rice too. All white rice is brown because the brown part is not part of the rice, it's actually the husk.
Yeah.
So even when you're eating white rice, it's still
It's still rice.
legally and legally and scientifically correct to say that made from brown rice. So how far back are we going? Because if we say that Australians are not eating enough fruit.
Mm.
And Stephen, you said, well, but I drink wine. It is made from
It's made
fruit.
from grapes.
It made from grapes. Grapes. So technically, it is fruit juice, right? Or if you're talking about, I don't eat enough
Yeah.
vegetable. but I have a sort of chips and wedges and everything. They are from made from potatoes, which are
Yep.
vegetables. So this is where I have an issue with, because not a lot of people have the time and the training to to discover these lies
Yeah.
and trickery that all of these brands are really good at.
Yeah. So I guess our message then to our listeners is to be a little bit more informed and to read the details, a little bit more of the details
And a
unpacked.
little bit,
Is that the message?
I'm going to cop a lot of criticism by saying this, but I feel that we need to be a little bit more skeptical and take that with a healthy dose of optimism as well, because I am a man of science. I'm a scientist. I believe in the advancement of technology, and I believe using technology to our advantage. But and however, when something is too good to be true,
Yeah.
most of the times it is too good to be true. So the term guilt-free snacking,
Mm,
it is not at all scientific. Just because it's made from dates doesn't mean that it doesn't contain sugar, because dates are packed with sugar.
yeah.
It is arguably a healthier form of sugar, but if you're diabetic, it will still skyrocket your blood sugar level.
Yeah.
It will still be stored as an excess energy in the form of fat.
Mhm.
So, all of these things, just because we recognize the name and we associate with something that is healthy, it doesn't automatically make something that contains this one thing
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah. When I was looking at the various products that are in my local supermarket, I found one that really stood out to me, and not trying to call out any particular product because I think it's that education that we're trying to communicate, not trying to call out individual products.
No,
Uh, but as a good example,
yes,
I just loved. There's a product called All Natural. It's a brand, which immediately, like it sounds, oh,
yes,
it's going to be. It's is that good for you? Like it could be. I'm sure there are a lot of products that they have that are really super good for you. But it's all natural bakery yogurt peach mango oat slice, which sounds fairly healthy.
it
I mean,
sounds
it's got
fresh.
oats. It sounds fresh. It's somehow associated with a bakery, and the local bakery bakes its own bread. That particular item has more than 20% sugar.
That's crazy. And probably when someone's reading that, they they think that, okay, I want to make a decision today to be healthier. I want to watch what I eat.
Mm.
I want to, consciously eat a lot more fruit. And they are being confronted with that type of
Yeah,
packaging.
yeah. Two fruits, oats, bakery.
And this is something that I think is just unethical, because I truly, truly believe, I sincerely believe that when people know better, they will make better choices, right?
Mm.
And this is not the burden on the consumers that they're refusing to make better choices. Majority of the time, when people are buying this type of products, it's because they want to be healthy.
Mm.
They want to be healthier. They want to be
Yeah,
more active. They
or
want to
or at least
change.
make the right choice
Exactly.
for their particular
But it's
situation.
almost like the system is rigged for them. How many times we have heard people saying that I've tried to lose weight, I've tried to be healthier, I've tried to reduce my cholesterol level, but nothing seems to work.
Mm.
And then uh, not only they receive the support that they need, sometimes society actually places the blame onto them and say that you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm not making excuses for people, but I do believe that if you have a magic wand and you can just wave your magic wand, everybody wants to be healthier.
Mm.
There's an economic burden and limitation. Not all of us can buy 100% organic. Not all of us can shop at the high end supermarket that meticulously trim all of the leaves or lettuces or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
And n- even when people have the financial means, sometimes they don't have the time.
Mm.
If you have your kids screaming at the supermarket when you're doing this grocery shopping, of course
Yeah.
you're only reading the first two bigger characters and sentences on the front pack.
Yep.
You don't have the time to flip it over and
Um,
read the ingredients.
and often, I know when I'm shopping, you look at the various options that are available, and there's one that's on special with a little yellow ticket,
Yes.
and like I'm gonna kind of gravitate to that, or even and back to the halo effect, because I think it works in a lot of different ways. It could be the brand that your parents have always bought, or it
Yes.
could be the brand that your friends have told you is the best one.
And I think again, going back to realizing what limited option that we actually have, especially, and I'm not pooping
Mm,
living in Australia because we're so lucky. I mean, I don't normally say anything about politics, but one thing that I heard from the news the other day was that life is kind of tough and challenging everywhere,
yeah.
but I'd rather be here than anywhere else. However, when it comes to options and choices on consumer products, we are quite limited. And going back to the legacy brands, a lot of the times we gravitate towards the type of margarine, the type of butter, the type of sauces that we grew up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really hard for us to make swaps and changes to a healthier alternative. And unfortunately, because of the amount of power and all of these different levers that they use, bigger companies who produce cheaper products simply because they use less clean ingredients or that they produce such in a big volume, they have a bigger power and more ability and options to reduce prices, to put products on special. Like you say yourself that when things are on special, human being naturally we're attracted, we gravitate to that
Mm.
special price
Yes.
because you are saving 50%, for example, of its
Uh,
half price.
I mean, there's a reason that it's yellow or orange or a bright
It
color as
grabs
well.
your attention, right? Like I love yellow. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but yellow is the color of joy.
My parents had a yellow kitchen growing. Everything was yellow
Okay, well, I now find my limit. No, I love bursts of yellow, but not when it is
everywhere.
the base color. Like okay, I always thought that I love yellow, and there is no such thing as too much yellow. But you just made me discover that there is a limit to that.
Excellent.
Uh, but yeah, I don't know for someone who, because you cook a lot,
Mm.
you not only because you have to, but you genuinely love cooking.
Yeah. Yeah.
How and whilst you are very intelligent and you have
Thank
you
you.
have you are I learn a lot from you. Don't be so modest. And you have this instinct to always want to know more, to be curious and everything. But you have never been trained in nutrition and
It's true.
that field of science, yeah? How do you navigate different options and different choices when it comes to food? And
Mm.
I'm not talking about ingredients because you cook a lot, but what I'm talking about, you know, pre-prepared food or the food item that you purchase just as part of your, grocery and pantry shopping.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's such an excellent question because it is, as we've been discussing, it's not straightforward. In fact, we're lucky in Australia that there are packaging laws that require the product to have a certain amount of information
Yes.
on that product. But there are a couple of things that I look for. I look for the amount of salt and the amount of sugar, and those two things are really important to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you're choosing the one that just has the less.
So
So
it's
it
almost like you're choosing, again, not to
mm,
quote politics, but sometimes you're choosing the lesser evil.
yes, absolutely choosing the lesser evil. Uh, I think that any of our listeners could go to their local supermarket and look at all of the prepackaged curry sauces or the sauce aisle,
Yeah.
and it's very difficult to choose the lowest sodium or the lowest salt um, teriyaki sauce because they all have a huge amount of salt in them.
Yeah.
And so, what I need to think of as a home chef is when I buy this product, what am I going to use it for, and in what volume am I going to use that product? So, I still want the soy sauce flavor, but maybe I'll buy the tamari, or maybe I'll buy the soy sauce that has the less salt in it. It's
Yes.
only going to be a percentage less salt. It's there's full salt and there's less salt, and the less salt one is like 2% less.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use it in a way that minimizes the salt because I know that it's a salty product.
Yes.
If I buy something that I know that it's a sugary product, I'm going to try and offset it.
Well, it's almost like when you buy caster sugar, of course, it will be high in sugar because it is
Yeah, yeah.
caster sugar.
I'm making jam at the moment, and
Yes.
jam is essentially 50% fruit, 50% sugar.
Yes. So which type of jam are you making?
So I'm making some fig jam, and
Okay.
I'm experimenting with. I've got a lot of eggplant at the moment because I've been growing eggplant,
Are you making like a jam chutney, like
like a jam
style?
chutney. Yeah, yeah. But I really don't like dried fruits, so I'm very very limited in what I can add to the eggplant to
Okay.
make it a bit more fruity.
Wow, I am looking forward to a complimentary jar from you, Stephen. Uh, the other thing that I want to say about the amount of options that it's almost sounds very counterintuitive that our parents not were probably not being afforded with the amount of choices and options and variants of packaged goods
That's
that we have.
very true. And not only packaged goods, though, also fruit and vegetables and things that are marketed as fresh food
Exactly.
that could come from Chile or from Argentina or from Canada.
And there's no certain time of the year. I mean, this gives a whole new meaning to all of you, including myself, who never had to deal with this. And I know this is a little bit of a first world problem, but back in the day, the word seasonal really means seasonal. You don't necessarily get a certain type of fruit all
Yeah.
year long. I mean, now, for example, citrus. Uh, I think now we started getting Australian citrus again,
Yep.
but a month ago, 2 months ago, they're all Americans.
Yeah, exactly. Grapes is another one.
Yes,
There are. It's actually hard to work out what are the grapes that have been frozen, put in a plane, flown to Australia, sat on a dock, and then a couple of weeks later they arrive in the supermarket or your local fruit and veg shop. And what are the grapes that were grown in Australia and were on a truck for 24 hours, and you can buy them then and there.
yeah,
And the difference between those two, uh, the amount of travel that those items have done is not reflective in the price
yes,
because we have a global market now for fruit and veg
for now.
for now. Yeah.
Uh, if you don't get it, you don't
Yeah.
get it. Uh, the other thing that I also want to add, which I promise will be my last point on this matter, is that sugar and salt, the word added salt and added sugar, it is extremely challenging and frustrating for people who want to reduce their intake of salt and
Mm.
sugar because pasta sauces, breakfast cereal,
Yeah.
bread, all of these products that you don't instinctively realize that they contain sugar and salt in quite excessive amount, and you think that okay, they're tomato based, fruit based, vegetable, so they must be healthy. Or that when you pack your lunches and you just buy, whatever sliced bread that you can get your hands on,
Yeah.
and then the sodium content is so high. And this is the reason why I feel that asking people to be 100% healthy in their diet is impossible, and I think it's a little bit rude because even armed with all of the information and knowledge that I have,
Mm.
I find it very, very hard to get in and out of a grocery shop journey or trip under an hour if I have to read all of the information on the back label.
I'm constantly taking my glasses on and off, right? So I can read the little tiny fine print. Uh, Look, Vincent, I think that that's good advice. I think that uh, raising awareness is important. knowing that there are choices that you have in the supermarket, maybe doing a little bit of research before you go, but a lot of people don't have time for that.
No,
The other thing I was going to suggest is the next time our listeners are on holidays for some reason, whether it's the upcoming Anzac Day long weekend, which is next Monday in New South Wales at least, or if it's maybe the June long weekend or the King's birthday in October for some people, or even the holidays at the end of the year, pick something that you would normally buy and make it. So passata sauce or a tomato sauce, super easy to make. Just you can Google almost any recipe and it's all going to work. It's essentially a little bit of salt, a little bit of acid, and a little bit of heat, which comes together in a tomatoey sauce. But once you make it, you only do it once. Once you make it, you have such a better understanding of what the product is, and that will allow you to make better choices in the supermarket because you've been through that process.
that is so true. And also how your palate perceives taste. Because I grew up in Indonesia, and marinara sauce or pasata sauce, the red sauce, the tomato based pasta sauce, when I first came to Australia, I didn't realize that it's not supposed to be sweet. Pasta sauce in Asia, especially in
Yeah.
Indonesia or Southeast Asia,
Mm.
it is so sweet. I cannot enjoy the spaghetti bolognese that I love growing up now,
Mm.
knowing what it's supposed to taste like. So that is a really great advice, because I think there's also a quote unquote addiction part of the salt and sugar, right? Because it creates that dependency and
Yeah.
sends
Yeah.
dopamine in your brain. But once you know what something should taste like or supposed to taste like, perhaps it helps you unconsciously to make better choices. Because
Mm.
just because it has less sugar and less salt doesn't necessarily mean that it's less flavorsome.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Or perhaps instead of adding all of the caster sugar, which is fairly heavily refined, perhaps in whatever dish you're making or whatever you're baking, you could add a fruit,
Yes.
which will still have a fructose sugar and still give you a bit of that sweetness, but not be as refined.
Yes, and there are so many tips and tricks in the kitchen that you can use to trick your palate in terms of giving you the intense flavor without
Mm.
the sugar or the sodium. Say, for example, if you add herbs like parsley or coriander, it gives you that savory taste in terms of saltiness to reduce the amount of salt that you need to achieve that intensity of salty, or caramelize your onions and
Yeah.
your aromatics, because sweating your onions really give that depth and sweetness to anything that you make. Soup, pasta
Mhm.
sauces, dressing, for example. So
Yeah.
all of these things that you will learn and continue to learn as long as you follow our podcast. Uh, I'm giving you a plug there, Stephen, because you're the chef of this show.
Thank you. Hey, let's go back to the halo effect. There was one more thing that I wanted to talk about in under that topic.
Okay.
So we've been talking about particular items and particular brand names, but the halo effect would also apply then to things like the type of supermarket or the type of store. Or a brand that we know very well, uh, getting into a different type of product.
Yeah.
And the one that comes to mind is Bunnings are now selling pet food.
Yes.
So is there a halo effect that if I go to Bunnings and I can't walk out of Bunnings without spending $100, even if I go in for something worth $5, uh, am I now going to also be looking at the pet food aisle because the halo effect is telling me that Bunnings is good value?
Yes, absolutely. And this the same principle applies to Costco. You're saving $2.10 in your petrol, but then you're spending an extra $500 in your grocery
Yeah,
shop of things that you didn't even need, or you didn't think that you would need before stepping into that store.
yeah,
And this is exactly the reason why they are selling their hot dog and soda combo for a loss, because what they lose in terms of selling that below cost,
mm,
they recoup in so much multiplier when it comes to what people are buying. And when it comes to Bunnings, for example, I do think that not only there is a brand recognition and brand association to it, it's also the experience. I have to say that again, coming from Indonesia, where uh, hardware shop you don't enjoy. If you ask Indonesian, you wouldn't enjoy. It's not something that you say, "Oh, I'm going to buy," whatever it is that you would find in a hardware store. And I do think that one of the things that I have a lot of respect and admiration for Bunnings is that they truly transform the whole experience of hardware shopping.
Mm,
But and however, at the same time, I also know people in the trades, from, I don't know, maybe 20 years older than me. They also still remember the mom and pop shop
yeah,
where they pretty much were out of business when Bunnings started, in the scene. So it's pros and cons. I'd like to think that, it gives consumers and Australians a lot more options. I'm not someone who would disagree with international trade and globalization because it gives options to now as a parent. Do you know how expensive it would have been without the ability to import clothes from China and Asia, for example? Back in the day, a pair of baby pajamas would probably cost you $50. Now you can walk into Kmart and get it for $3.
yeah, yeah. And in some markets like the US, it's even less. There's such
Yes.
a huge amount of imports and cheaper items that are available on the shelves.
As a proud finalist of the Export Award 2024, 2025, and hopefully this year too,
Hopefully this year.
hopefully I win this year. I well and truly believe that Australia has always been a player in a global economy. Even the First Nation people, before Australia is the way that we know it is now, they have been doing trades with people from Indonesia, people from
Mm,
Asia. So
yeah.
I really do believe that it goes back to us human as a social being, that not only we exchange stories and cultures but also goods.
Mm,
And I do think that it is a good thing. I know a lot of people probably think that they are the bad things too, and I do believe that. But I, as much as I'm a skeptic, I'm also an optimist.
yeah. So, thank you for talking about the halo effect. I feel much more informed, and
Can you tell when a topic is so like when I'm so passionate about a topic?
I'm clear. I had a bunch of other things that I was going to talk about this podcast as well, but we've filled it with we're talking about product placement, what's in products, and how far they've travelled.
Yes.
Essentially, and these are all good things. Hopefully, some of our listeners have some feedback as well. Maybe even listeners could find products which are
Send it our way. We'll compare it for you.
yeah, exactly.
Yep, yep, yep.
Happy to do that. That'd be awesome.
Well, thank you so much. And if you want to have a look at the glasses that Steven showed me at the beginning of the show, you would have to tune in tomorrow, because once we put up the full episode on askdrvincent.com or wherever you watch your podcast from, you can see
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
But for
exactly.
now, yours truly.
Well, actually, just before we go, you've been doing a daily
I
haven't you,
have.
as well. So let's for the people who have lasted this 44 minutes, tell us a little bit about the dailies you're doing because they're important.
Well, I would think so, and I would hope so because I have been doing it for almost daily, and I made a commitment to myself to do this daily dose podcast series. It is something that's very simple. Every day, every weekday, around 9ish, 9:30, I will go live on Substack, Instagram, and also TikTok, to talk about three stories about health and wellness. It could be new research, it could be the breaking news, it could be government policies, new products, new trend. Basically, I want to be your friendly neighborhood scientist who breaks down science, health, and wellness so that you get the information that you need so that you can choose better, you know better, and we can learn together too. It's not always only me giving you information. The beauty of being live on three different platforms is that you get to tell me in real time what you want to know, what you want to tell me, and all of these questions. So, thank you so much for all of you who have been listening. We have had, I think, a total of just under 2,000 plays, which is amazing for a new series, 7 episodes. Nowhere near our
Amazing.
numbers for our after hours. It is still our flagship show, but you don't have to choose. You can watch both
And we're going to summarize both the longer
in our
podcast
newsletter.
and the smaller one in the newsletter.
Yeah.
So get engaged. Well, I feel like I'm closer to the community.
Oh well, there you go. He's going to run for office now. On that note, I am Dr. Vincent.
And I'm Stephen. Thank you very much for tuning in this week.
See you next week. Bye bye.